In 2008, I believe it was, we instituted a moratorium on rulemaking, which is still in effect now. We renewed it last year, and we've tried to expand it, which at least limits any new regulation, new requirements, new licensing over and above what was already there. The biggest step we could make is to continue to strive to repeal some of the regulation that is already there and some of the bureaucracy that goes on. I sponsored a bill last session that didn't get a lot of attention. It probably didn't have a lot of significance to people other than air conditioning and electrical contractors, but the Corporation Commission had taken upon themselves to require electrical and air conditioning contractors to have some special training prior to being able to do work on homes and allow homeowners to get a rebate that was being offered for high efficiency air conditioners. And I think there was water softeners and a few other products that could be done. But in order to get the rebate, you had to hire an installer or a subcontractor who had gone through this extra training. I sponsored a bill to remove that authority from the Corporation Commission, so they could not add that regulation, they could not add that requirement. By having that, it limited a very small group that were able to do these installations and to take these jobs, and they were able to charge a much higher price. There were actually some contractors that were reducing the cost of their service in order to get the work, and they had to reduce the cost because their customers couldn't get the rebates. We were successful in having that repealed entirely. The governor had a bill signing just last week, actually about 2 weeks ago, where she signed that bill, and it's now law. There are so many statutes like that that need to be taken down one at a time, and I couldn't even begin to tell you how many of them there are. But there was one right there that is now off the books, and it will not be a challenge anymore. I was happy to see the guy that brought me the issue. He was an air conditioning contractor, and he explained to me that he could not compete with the larger companies because part of this training you had to get each of your people installed, and you had to have a supervisor that was trained through this program as well. It was much more expensive for a one-man operation or a two-man operation than it was, say, if you had 50 people, because there were tiers as to how many people had to be trained and how many supervisors you had to have per employee. If you were a two-man operation, well, one's got to be a supervisor and go through the supervisory training. One would be the operator. Let's say you have 20 employees. I believe the requirement was you had to have 2 supervisors, and some number of the employees had to go through the training. So it was very cost prohibitive for these small business, which I have to suspect was the reason it was created that way in the first place. But I was pleased to see when we went to the bill signing, the man that brought me the issue and explained this to me was there. And he was there for the signing. He got a photograph with the governor, and it was a good experience. You could actually see the guys who have money taken out of their pocket were there when the bill was signed. And I was happy to see that. But we could probably go on all day long about other issues. There's probably dozens of them that you know that I've never even heard of. There's just so many that have been passed over the years. And a lot of those are, I don't know if one of your questions involved clean elections, but if it does, this may divert into that. But when you look at clean elections where it limits the contributions from lobbyists or from special interest groups, that's exactly what we're talking about, is when these contributions get made, it's reasonable to assume most people feel a commitment to where they got that money. At the very least, they feel a commitment to their next campaign when they're looking back to the same place to get it. And that's how these statutes become law. Nobody wrote a regulation just out of the blue and said, I think we'll require licensed electricians, licensed air conditioning contractors that have taken their training and qualified through the Registrar of Contractors. They're experts in their field. It didn't just come out of the blue that we're going to say these people need extra training in order for their customers to get a tax credit from the government. This had to have originated from somebody going in and saying, we need an advantage over the small guy. The big companies need an advantage. And there had to be a reason why somebody chose to do that. It didn't just become statute by accident. Nobody woke up and just said, let's do this. That's how it gets there. And I'm not saying that clean elections is the answer to all of that, but I do know after serving for 2 years, there is a lot of influence from special interests, and a lot of people come down and remind you that they can be beneficial to you at election time. I'm well aware that they certainly can't trade their support for their issues, but there's a lot of discussion that goes on. I've had a number of people in my office that make it very clear that it would be beneficial to me to have their support. For that reason, I find clean elections to be a real advantage. There may be plenty of negatives for clean election as well. I don't know how familiar you are with my voting record, but I was not supportive of clean elections when it was being debated. Still probably not supportive of it in concept, but I think it's on the right track to remove the special interest influence that is so prevalent at all levels of government. Probably got a little off track to your question there, but